And this is the Coins, Cashflow, and Conversations podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady, sponsored by Upstate Essential Solutions. If you need help with accounting and taxes, personal finances, you're struggling and you haven't filed your taxes yet, the deadline is passed. Unless you have filed extension, you need to have your taxes filed. Or if you're struggling financially and you need someone to help you whether your money or pay off your debt, contact me today at dakotagrady.com. Hey y'all, welcome to the podcast, and I want to just welcome y'all to the show today. I have a guest, Ms. Jeanette Brewster of Village Launch. It's a program in Greenville helping minority businesses get a launch on their business. I want to have her on the show today talking about entrepreneurship and also self-care for entrepreneurs. So, Jeanette, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It's been a long time coming.
Yes, ma'am. Tell us about who you are and what you do, Jeanette.
Oh, wow. So as you said, I'm Jeanette Brewster. I am the program director for Village Launch. I support minority and women-owned businesses in Greenville, South Carolina, with either launching their business from idea or growing it and allowing them to figure out what their next steps are and how to scale it. And in some cases, figuring out if that's not even the right move and maybe they should do something different.
Right. So talk about your background in entrepreneurship, because you started as a photographer, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Talk about that, from going from entrepreneurship to leading and mentoring entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so it's funny because we don't realize how many little things lead us to the next thing. But I'm a person that always stays open and curious of like, okay, what else is there that I can be doing? But so we'll say photography was like my first like real part business that I did, licensed LLC, pay taxes, those type of things, right? So I started in photography in probably 2015, doing everything from graduations, birthday parties, all the things, and then realized quickly that I don't like doing everything when it comes to photography. My primary focus, which I love, was like small businesses, headshots, branding, lifestyle portraits. Um, my love for photography developed through just like street photography, capturing like candid moments. And then also I have a friend who has a wedding photography business and I second shoot all her weddings with her. So I kind of work in her business as well. Through photography, I found the program that I am now the program director of. So I started out as a student of the program, not for photography specifically. Was in March of 2019. I decided that I wanted to launch another business because I was working full time in corporate. And I was like, where are other entrepreneurs that look like me? Because co working spaces, most of those people that work full time in their business, they are leaving those co-working spaces by 2 o'clock. They're probably not there on a Friday or on the weekends. So there really was no place for someone to go to after they got off work to find community. And that's what I wanted to create. Um, Fast forward, that was 2019. So you know what happened in 2020. So co-working was probably not the best route to go forward with. So I learned a lot through the program, met a lot of great people, and built some really cool connections. And so through that, I'm kind of, what people may not know about me is I'm a little bit of a tech nerd. I love technology. I've always loved it. I'm a age myself, but when we got our first computer at home, I was the one that my family was calling with, how do we do this? I was tinkering with everything. And so I've always built my own websites. And so I started building websites for other photographers and people that I knew, and took the skills from the class to grow and develop my photography and web design business and figure out how to combine the two together. And so that's what I started doing. I was still working full time. And then the end of 2019, the director of our program at that time just got engaged and was moving to New York, reached out to me and was like, hey, have an opportunity for you. Would you like to take over this program? And I was like, is that how people get jobs? Never in my life, in my experience, has that happened. So December 2019, I accepted the role, left corporate America, and started running my business full time. And I was doing my work part time actually at the nonprofit. And then in 2021, I went as a full time employee because things opened back up and the program started taking off a little bit more. and I needed to dedicate more time to it. So that's kind of a little bit I could share.
Wow.
You asked some questions, so
I know you had a background, I guess, interest in tech too.
hmm
So, real quick, I know there was a guy recently who did tech. He was in the cohort 25, I believe.
hmm
So, did you all any do any collaborations or talk about anything that I mean that can help his business grow? Like, what do y'all talk about in terms of tech, if anything?
we had some general conversation when I met him. I know you're talking about this, about the recent cohort that just graduated.
Yes.
He has an amazing business, and so when he had actually applied, he had been running his web design company for probably 20 years. He's a younger guy, but he started young, and tech is an easy thing to kind of get into at a younger age. And I was like, I was torn as to whether or not our program was going to be a great fit for him. And we talked through it, and we talked through some of his challenges, and I could relate to where he was because I'm good at a thing, but it doesn't mean I'm good at running business and figuring out how to scale it. And the other thing, which is might be getting ahead of myself, is in our program, what people don't understand is that they need connection to other people. Because sometimes who can only take you so far, but putting yourself out there and getting connected into the right spaces is what's going to help you grow. So me and him kind of talked on the level of how can you grow it and what do you need. And he knew he was like, no, I need to take this program. So it was great. I was really happy that he he joined us. And I hope you
So,
can't hear my 3-year-old because she is somewhere in there.
oh no, it's fine. I have almost 2 years, so I understand. She's another one.
Okay.
So you made the program 5 years now, 20 roughly.
So yeah, the end of this year, end of 2024 will be 5 years for me with the program.
So you've seen it grow from how many cohorts to what you have now?
So we just had our cohort 25 and 26 just graduated. When I took over the program, the first cohort that I brought in was cohort 11, which is crazy that that many programs in just 4 years have come through because when I took the program in 2019, they were only doing two cohorts a year. They were doing one in the spring and one in the fall. And then in 2021, we started doing three a year, spring, summer, and fall. And then, which is kind of weird that it went this way, but when I I got sick in 2022, and my ED, they decided like, we need to give her some help, right? We need another person to help her. They brought in another person, and then we decided, oh, and we're going to do 6 cohorts a year. So it amped up, but we've been trying to see what is the best flow. But
So talk about, I guess you're running 100 miles an hour, right?
it's
You're a wife, you're a mom,
mm-hmm.
you're an entrepreneur, and you're a director. Talk about that in terms of being, I guess, busy, doing active, and then
Yeah.
self-care. Because I believe even me being an entrepreneur, I mean, it may be difficult sometimes to take time for yourself because you're grinding, want to grow a business, want to scale it, want to see the vision come to reality. But
Yeah.
your body, when it halts, what do you do within? So talk about your story, share that, please.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely halted for sure. So yeah, so as you said, I'm a wife. We have 7 children together. It's a blended family. So we have 5 still in the house. So they're from ages 27 down to 3. And crazy how many personalities can come about from all of. They're all very different. But so as you can imagine, we're a very busy household, and our kids are active, and then me and my husband both work full time. So um I was running, this was so 2022, just a little bit about not prioritizing yourself and taking care of yourself. I was not always good at that, and I still struggle sometimes because I'm a natural helper. When I tell people like my purpose in life is to serve, and it shows up in different capacities, but sometimes I don't pour back into myself like I should. And so in 2022, June of 2022, I was taking my daughter regular routine, dropping her off at basketball camp. I had a podcast at the time, and so like I was podcasting a lot, and we were doing like workshops, and we did some live podcasts, like shows. like we were just doing a lot, plus photography, plus some business coaching and consulting, and then my job and being a mom. And so it was summertime. I was taking my kids to camp and dropped one of them off, and the last one was in the car with me, and pulled up and to her camp, and my I passed out in the car. Luckily, I had stopped. I was parked. Found out later after I woke up that I had been went into cardiac arrest, and so literally my body completely just shut down. They luckily the place I was at when it happened, they had someone. One, they had an AED machine, but they also had someone that knew how to work it. And so they worked on me for about 15 minutes until the ambulance got there. They did 2 AED shocks, took me by ambulance to the hospital, did another one on the ambulance, and then they completely shut my body down. So they do something where they put you on ice and it shuts all of your whole system down to preserve the potential of any like brain damage and things like that or other internal organ damage. And then they warm you up to try to wake you up. But every time they try to wake me up after those 2 days of being on ice, my blood pressure kept spiking. So then they kept me intubated for a full week until they were able to wake me up without any like issues or anything. All praises. I am like I have no only the only thing that was the biggest effect for me outside of some rehabilitation was that I lost a little bit of my memory. And so sometimes I see people and they like, hey, like, hey. And I'm like, I promise you I'm not being like, Hollywood. I just really sometimes it takes me a minute to connect like some people that maybe I've only met like one or two times. If I've known you for a while, then it's not really an issue. But ended up having to go through rehab, getting out because you lose when you shut down like that, you lose all of your motor skills. I remember waking up and being like, "What is going on?" Somebody gave me my phone, and I remember holding my phone, and it just fell out my hand. I couldn't hold it. I couldn't type on it. I couldn't do anything. So I really had to like rebuild the muscle in my legs and my hands. I came home from the house. That was June 21st, 2022. I came from the hospital July 2nd. Now, this is going to tell you how controlling I have been in my life because I I was supposed to go to a rehab facility. And I remember being in the hospital, like, okay, I've been, going to the restroom on my own. I've been getting up with the walker, talking to the physical therapist. I was like, I do not want to go to like another facility. And she was like, well, if you can do these things, I might be able to get them to approve for you to just go home and go to therapy, physical therapy. I said, okay. So did it, got approved. I called my husband. No one was at the hospital. I called my husband and said, hey, they said I can come home tomorrow. And he was like, what? Everybody was so mad at me because I made the decision to just come home. But I was just determined to get like back to my life. And, but I did do physical therapy for 3 months. I couldn't drive. My daughter drove me around. And so, yeah, it was definitely a humbling experience. And it's a word, my work, I do a word of a year every year. And was it that year? I don't know if that year that was my word, but it was either that year or the year prior. My word was surrender. And sometimes you got to be real careful what you put out there and ask God for because He will give it to you in a way that you did not expect. And so having to just sit still and really figure out, okay, what is important to me? What is a priority? Because my husband said, look, you can't go back at life doing all the things that you were doing before. Like he said, you can do them, but I'm not. And then it's never, my husband is never like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like we have a great relationship in which, you know, I'm free to be myself, but also he's concerned and he worries about me. So he's like, you have to ease your way back in. Like you have to let some stuff go. So I slowed down on some of the work that I was doing through my business because at that moment, and as it is right now, my passion is the community and advocating for them and helping our entrepreneurs get the access that they need and the resources they need. So I went back into work full time and kind of put some of my business on hold. So I still do some freelance photography things, mostly for clients that I've worked with before. I have like a PR agent that I've worked with, and she has a lot of her clients that she will send to me, which is very easy work. She handles all of the back end stuff. I pulled away from web design because it's very client heavy. And so I'm just doing some coaching and a few like freelance and like facilitation things, but definitely had to really think about like my priorities and what mattered and where I need to spend my time. And even in that, almost 2 years later, yeah, next month will be 2 years. Um, I'm still working on it, still figuring out, okay, went back in full time. Maybe I need to prioritize some other things. I have small children. And so just being able to have enough emotional support within me to provide to them at the end of the day is important. And sometimes I can't give it all out to everybody else. So, yeah,
Mm.
I know it's
Wow.
a
Thank you.
lot.
No, thank you for sharing that story because I didn't realize that happened to you until we were talking one day. Like, what? Hey, you did a
Yeah.
podcast. It was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this last
Hmm.
year. So yeah.
That's what I said. It's been a minute. We've been trying to get this. And as you know, I'm always doing something. I'm like, if you don't put it on my calendar, it might not happen. Like,
That
and just
part.
ask me more than once. I don't feel any type of way. Just keep asking me because, life happens and you get pulled so many different ways. And it's not that people aren't priority. I always tell people like, there's people who get upset if you like, oh, I have to put it on my calendar. They're like, well, why you got to pencil me in? This isn't business. I said, no, but it's me showing you that you're important and my time with you matters. If I am willing to block off an hour, 2 hours, or even 30 minutes on my calendar for us, that means this is a priority and I'm not going to let nothing else, get in the way of it. So
Right.
just
So yeah, with that saying, we got like 6 minutes, so I want out of your time. So real quick, what have you seen as the biggest issue that for entrepreneurs have gone through their program?
oh, biggest issue. I will say, and it's probably not what you think, it's probably not a business tip. It's the biggest issue I see is trust, and it's a lack of trust in people. It's a lack of trust in themselves to be able to continue to do the things that they want to do, or belief that they, can do the things that they want to do. So sometimes when you're in a setting like our class that happens over 10 weeks, you're focused, you're like, oh, I can do this, right? You have other people supporting you. And then when the class is over, if you don't intentionally stay connected with everyone, you go back into your day-to-day life and then you kind of just forget about it. And you don't really have that extra push to help you, keep it top of mind or make it a priority. Prioritization is another one. People don't manage their time right. They're like, oh yeah, I know how much time I have, and they don't. A lot of them are blind to where their time is going. They have no idea. They just feel like, oh, well, I work all these hours. And it's like, okay, you got off at 5. Um, you might have done dinner with your family. You say you don't go to bed till like 11. So what are you doing for those other 3 hours? Like what's going on? Or Saturdays, you don't do anything on Saturdays. What are you doing with those hours? And so um, just consistency in doing the work. I know you asked for one thing, but there's multiple. Trusting people and themselves, prioritizing their time, and then setting boundaries, but not just setting, but telling people what you're doing so that they know that you have set this as a boundary for yourself. We step on
Mm,
our own boundaries more than other people do because we don't honor them for ourselves. So,
mm. That first part, lack of trust. I'm thinking about in the Black community, we don't really trust
yeah.
each other when it
Mm-mm.
comes to finances, business. Like we don't trust each other. Is that why you think we don't have employees? We have just solopreneurs, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, the fear I would say is part of that because people are afraid of being responsible for someone else's salary, right? Like, oh God, he has a family. I don't want to tell Dakota I'm going to hire him and then I can't keep this going, right? It's too much pressure on us, right? Then there is some people where like, oh, I got all these trade secrets in my business. I don't want people to know my recipes, so I'm not sharing it with anybody. And it's like, you know how many Kentucky Fried Chickens are out there? Young people know that like they not worried about it. KFC might not be the best one anymore, but like Chick-fil-A's or whatever. But but yeah, there is a huge trust issue. And you cannot move forward without other people. I'm sorry. The best solopreneur, even if you're just a motivational speaker and you speak on stages, they probably have a virtual assistant, they probably have or an executive assistant that is managing their calendar, someone else sending out their emails, doing their social media for them. Like you might still be the face of your business, but you still need other people to do the back end work. Because let me tell you, sometimes, and like in my life, when your body shuts down, it shuts down for real. And everyone's not as blessed to be able to just come back from that. So
That's good. That's good. So last question. How can people prioritize, I guess, or combine purpose over profit or purpose and profit? Because money is important, but life is even more important. Talk about that.
prioritizing purpose over profit or vice versa. Well, first of all, everything that you're purpose to do is not meant to be monetized. And that's where
Mhm.
people have so many people that are creating businesses because someone told them, "Oh my God, you are so good at this. You should sell it." That's not always what it's for. And so it goes back to what we teach them in class. Like, is there a real problem that you're solving? And are the people that you're solving the problem for do they actually exist in the community that you're in? Right? What is the amount of effort that it's going to take to get the impact that you're trying to see? And so I feel like you should love what you do, but my purpose is to serve. So whether I do that through Village Launch, whether I do that through my photography, or do that as a mom, it can look different. It doesn't have to be just one way. Because if you're a cook, you're not cooking just because you want people to be full, right? You want that experience. You want to see people happy, smiling. You know how food brings people together. That is your purpose. Is like connections and community. And people think it's just the food, right? No, that's the skill that you have to be able to execute it. But you can create connections any type of ways, right? It doesn't have to be through selling food. So that could just be the pun intended icing on the cake. But but
Very true.
yeah, you you're not gonna make money if you don't have a true solid foundation and business model. I don't care how much purpose and passion you have, but you have to have a solid foundation and people that need what you are trying to put out there, whether it's a service or a product. If they don't exist, there's no money out there to be made.
So how can people find out about you, your business launch on social media and website?
So you can go to villagelaunch.org to find out more about Village Launch. We're on all social media at Village Launch. Very easy to find us there. You'll probably see my face on there, so it's easy to find me through there too. But I am Jeanette N. Brewster on social media. And my photography is jeanbphotography.com.
Cool. Jeanette, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. And this is the Coins, Cashflow, and Conversations podcast, sponsored by Upstate Essential Solutions. Again, if you need help with accounting and taxes or personal finances, contact me today at dakotagrady.com. And last thing, if you need some tax strategies, go to dakotagrady.com, click on the taxes solution page, and there's a drop down, and you'll see a resource for you. It's free. Get the resource at dakotagrady.com.